gear, some yoga gear that you might be interested in using as you start your yoga adventure. So one thing that I have found very useful are the blocks, which I didn't think would be helpful, but they are. These will help you alleviate any kind of pain in your wrists if you're feeling pressure when you're doing any kind of holds for your body. It takes the pressure off of your wrists. It elevates you to the level so you don't have all that pressure or needing all of that strength that you might not have yet. And so until you build up the strength, you can use these. These are very useful. You can also use them to help lift up your hips if you're in easy pose and your knees are hurting you and you're kind of stuck right here, but you want to try to go further, then you can put them on the sides of your knees, on your thighs, and then that will help relax yourself and just ease into this easy pose. The other one that I've found useful is the yoga strap. So if you've seen people using these, they're very, very easy to get on Amazon or at any Target, any kind of store like that. You can find them, and all it is a strap, and a lot of times you put it into a loop, and that will be for your foot, and then you just tighten it so that you can lift up. You can go behind you and stretch more, and it just really helps for certain poses that you're practicing, and it'll help you get into that stretch a lot easier and quicker. It's not so scary if you don't think, if you think I can't do that, but it's very helpful to have these items. Another thing you should have is a towel, not only to wipe your sweat, but also when you are getting into certain poses, it's nice to have that extra cushion on your knees. So if you have sore knees or weak knees, don't give up on yoga because of that. Just use props, use things that are around your house. Something that is not too bulky. Like I wouldn't really use a pillow for your knees, but if your hips are sore and you can't get your sits bones down, then you can use a pillow, and that'll help straighten everything out and raise you up higher. And it also brings comfort to your sits bones. Another thing you have to have, it's a must, is a yoga mat. Get any kind that you like. I've seen them as low as like $10. Then work your way up there. I got 2 just to get me extra padding. So the other thing I'm going to do is go over just a few basic asana poses that you may have heard of and that you've been practicing. And for me, when I was just starting, I was just kind of looking at what people were doing and doing it, which is obvious that that's what you're going to do if you're doing stuff at home and you don't have a teacher in a class that you're going to, especially right now during this pandemic. It's really helpful to actually see and hear the exact pose so that you know where should my feet be. And when you're in the actual class, you're just trying to breathe and go through everything, and you're listening to all these directions, and sometimes you don't get the full benefits that you're going to get with yoga, especially if you're doing the pose not right and you're just nervous about how you look and all that stuff. Forget about all that. Don't worry about how you look, and that's what's the beauty about working out at your house. So I thought I would go over just a few poses right now, and I'll continue doing other ones later, just to show things that confused me before I really started focusing on other people and how everybody's bodies are different and how the poses are interchangeable. They're pretty much basic, but then you can do little variations. So I thought I would just do some basic ones. And let's get started. I'm going to start with balancing table. There's also words you might hear in yoga too called Sanskrits, and those are from the ancient wordings of when yoga first began through Buddhism and India. And so those are kind of fun to start to learn. I'm practicing those so that I can become a yoga teacher. So a lot of times you will not say them right, but just keep practicing, just like yoga. So for balancing table, the way that you say that word in Sanskrit, let's see, it's very long, and it's Dandiyama Paramasana. So you might hear some yoga teachers say these funny words like that. They're just trying to get you to know how to say it more in the yogic language. And just so you understand, when they say certain words like that, it's still the pose that you know. They're just saying it in that other language. So for balancing table, or sometimes it's called spinal balance. I'm going to start this side. You're going to begin in your tabletop, and what that means is that your hands are over the wrists. Spread out your fingertips. Make sure, and I have to always check this about my own self, that the knees are not, your whole body's not going ahead like this, and you're not going like this. So you gotta, a mirror or a video that you're doing of yourself is great, so you can critique your own self and say, oh, I need to straighten or do whatever. Then you're gonna take your right hand and you're going to put it out there. Oh, I might not have it from you. Right hand, and then the opposite leg, so not the right leg, but the left leg. And you're going to balance here. So do not bring the leg up all the way like that. You are just keeping it here like this, with a flat, the toes pointed down, fingertips reaching, and the head looking down at your mat, relaxed. And then you would just breathe. Also keep the torso in to the spine. And this is your tabletop. And then I'm going to come down and I'll flip them to the other side. Keep those core muscles engaged. So I'm coming on this side. I'm making sure that my hands are flat. Spread out fingers. My shoulders are straight. My arms, everything goes over the wrists. And I bring down my other leg, now my left leg. No, I'm not going to do my left leg. I need to switch it. Bring my right leg. And I'm going to put my toes to point to my mat. And then I'm going to bring my hand out the left arm because I have my right leg. And this is balanced table. I'm going to come back down into child and stretch myself for a second. And come back up. So that's going to strengthen your quad, your hamstrings, your glutes, your abs and spine, your arms, your ankles, and your legs. But if you have any kind of back issues, you don't want to attempt this. Again, if you have any knee issues, you're going to want to put down a little towel here and just simply you can have a bigger towel or whatever you need, a couple of towels, and put that like that. Or if you have any wrist issues, then you can have another towel for your wrist. You also can fold the mat and just give a little cushion for your wrists or your knees that way as well. Next, my next pose. This one is a hard one, but there's many different modifications that you can take if this is your first one, and this is still something I'm working on because I always have to see how low, how straight my body is, so I like to have a mirror when I'm practicing this. And this is chaturanga dadasana. So chaturanga is a Sanskrit name for it, which means, chatur means four, anga, limb, danda, staff, and asana is your pose. So chaturanga danda asana. Chaturanga danda asana. This is going to strengthen your arms and your shoulders, your chest, and your abs. So you're going to start in your plank, which is hard for a lot of people to do and to hold if you haven't built up your upper body strength. So whatever you can do is you get into a modified version, which means maybe you're only right here until you can build up that strength to hold yourself in plank, and then you can just go down into your chaturanga, keeping the elbows too close to your body, and then usually you're going to go up into a upward dog. But you can also just go into a cobra if you cannot lift the thighs off of the ground. But let's go back to chaturanga if we were to do it how it's supposed to be done, hopefully. So you're in a plank, and what you're going to do is lower yourself like you're going to do a push-up, and your elbows are straight, and then I like to go into my upper dog. And then we flip. This is what I did not know for a long time, is when you do your upper dog, your feet actually flip. So we were here. When you get to this point of when you're, I'll start again. When you get down to your chaturanga, you flip and come up to your upper dog. Notice my feet. Then you generally are going to push back. My feet are still staying flipped over into my downward dog. However, obviously, if this is not within your practice and it's your first time, or you have any issues with your feet, then you don't want to do that and you would just stick with this. But you'll notice that a lot of people have their feet flipped over, and that's really nice for your toes to stretch them out. They need that too. So I did not know that for a long time till I really started looking at every pose and seeing how it was actually done. So that's chaturanga. You need to keep your core engaged that whole time. If you just let it hang loose, it's going to be way too hard. Make sure your elbows are hugged in at a 90-degree angle, and you are lengthening your spine, you're engaging your quads, and your feet are being pushed back. Our next one that I wanted to go over was the downward facing dog, which I talked to you about already just a moment ago. And in Sanskrit, downward facing dog, let's see, it's Adho Mukha Svanasa. Adho Mukha Svanasa. So we are going to be doing the downward dog, and it stretches your calves, hamstrings, arms, glutes, strengthens your arms, your core, and your glutes. And your goal is to make sure you're pressing your heels into the ground. So eventually your heels will just be flat onto your mat. That's what you're looking for. So here we will be in our tabletop, and then I'm just would push back into my downward facing dog. And your fingers need to be spread out. And you're rotating those arms inward, not outward. Pressing into the shoulders. And you just hold here and breathe. A lot of times people might be only right here because they cannot pull their heels down. That's fine. Eventually you're going to be where your whole heel is going to be able to be onto the ground. And we just say here, breathing feels wonderful. And then there's so many different variations and modifications. So a lot of people like to just do more stretching where you pop up on your toes and back up on your heels. Or you can shrink it down onto your heels. Do that kind of stretch and pop up. But you will really see this a lot in your flow, and you'll see it happening a whole bunch when you come down into your chaturanga. Then you come into your upward dog, flipping your feet. And then you're going to press back into that downward facing dog. Really good for the spine. And make sure that you have a mirror because it will really help, or your camera is good too. And I'm just going to go over a few things here that I have in my notes. You need to inhale and tuck your toes and lift the knees up as you're pushing up, straightening the legs. And lengthen your tailbone towards the sky, keeping the feet width apart. If you have any serious shoulder injuries, you don't want to do this pose. You can keep your knees bent or slightly bent if you can't straighten your legs. And for wrist issues, you can get onto your fist if you have any wrist issues. And I would use a towel on top of your mat, so if you still are feeling pain in your wrist. You need to emphasize pressing up through your thumb and your forefingers. So you are making sure that when your hands are pressed and you're coming up, you're thinking about that, pressing into your thumb and your fingers. And that really will help you. And then just draw the neck down. You don't want to strain the neck. So keep it gazing down to your mat. And the fingers need to be spread wide. Or if you're in a fist, you can do that too. You can come down into your forearms if that's still too much pressure on the wrists. And then you can just be doing something like this that's kind of like your dolphin. And your heels might not touch at all at this point if you're on your forearms. But you don't want to do that if your shoulders are hurting you. But that's also to alleviate any pressure on your wrists. Or you could put a blanket down. If you have any shoulder injuries, you can bring your hands and your shoulders out a bit wider to reduce the strain. So instead of being right here, hip width, you would just open up your arms a little wider. And that will take pressure off of the shoulders and just put more onto the palms. And I have one last asana for you. And this is your upward facing dog, which we already talked about. And that, you're going to keep your shoulders down the back And press down and up through the tops of your heels. So if we're down, so that upward facing dog here, it's almost like you're a cobra, which here's your cobra. If it's too much strain on the body to hold the thighs up, then just come down into your cobra. But if you can, the upward dog, you actually are going to be lifting your knees off of the ground. Your feet, your toes are flat like before what I had told you. And they stay that way even when you push into downward dog if you can. Lengthen your spine. And your wrists are right under your shoulders, so you want to check that. Look at the mirror, do what you need to do. And broaden that chest and have it up slightly. So this is actually how you would do upward facing dog. But if you have to, you can have your thighs on the floor. And upward. And then I just push back into downward. So when you see people doing that, that's how you get into that pose. So you want to practice those flows, the ones that you see a lot. Okay, thank you, and I hope this helps you a little bit. And I can't wait to see you guys again when I put out some more yoga videos. So I hope you'll join me. Have a good day.